what happened to City in the second half?
Well, it was the Brighton show. I mean, they did make some changes, to be fair to them. Made one at half-time, then made another 3. For 35 minutes, it was a clinic. Apart from the fact it was only 1-0, but it was a clinic from Man City in terms of this Brighton team that are very good on the ball, couldn't get on the ball. And then they finished the half strongly, Brighton, which gave them a bit of momentum at half-time, and they came out and they continued that. Then they made the changes. And then we just saw all those flaws in Man City that we've seen in these games, where we know they've got some defensive problems, we know they've got some injury problems, but Brighton just continued to open them up and deservedly got back in front and deservedly won the game. Now, he did have experienced players on the bench, which we saw some of them coming on, in Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. Nathan Ake was on the bench and Manuel Akanji was on the bench, and Stevie and I were talking, they can't be fit, they can't be ready. There must be a bigger picture in terms of why these guys are not involved, because it's a long old season. But that's 10 goals in 4 games, and they did not deserve to win this game today. They did not. Brighton fully deserved the win.
You agree with that, Stevie?
Yeah, I mean, the second half, I think, would be the biggest worry, I think, if I'm Pep, is that physically, from a mental standpoint as well, they got absolutely nowhere near Brighton. You know, in the first half, Brighton, I think, were far too respectful. They sat off them. And if you sit off City, they'll pass the ball for fun. Now, fortunately for Brighton, City right now in the final third, and you know, gone are the days of 3 and 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Seems like it anyway. And in the second half, after the kick up the backside, all of a sudden, in the middle of the park, they just got outfought, outran. And Brighton, technically, are very, very good. And so all that put together, Man City had no answer for it. Gundogan and Kovacic, as good as he was in the first half, just went in the game. Ricardo Lewis, in the first half, looked as though he was playing centre midfield. You know, they had total dominance in the middle of the field, City. He couldn't leave his spot in the left-back position because Brighton were just all over them. So that would be a worry. Just from a pure physical point, they couldn't handle what Brighton were doing to them. So if I'm watching this, if I'm anybody else in the Premier League who's playing them shortly, you get in the face the way that Brighton did in the second half and get after them, well, they had no answer.
We talk about all these teams, if we just touch on Brighton quickly, that sell players, and that's problematic. This team sells players, and they recruit players as good, with promise, and if not, maybe sometimes better. I mean, I'm probably going to miss some out here, but they sold Cucurella. They sold Bissouma to Tottenham. They sold McAllister to Liverpool. They sold Caicedo to Chelsea. There are more. And they've gone out and they've replaced him. Ayari came in. He went off at half-time because he was booked. Baliba came on. He was excellent. Young Hinshelwood, the manager has talked about him. He's going to play for England. He can play full-back. He can play in midfield. Georgina Rutter comes in from Leeds. João Pedro comes in. I think it was from Watford he came in from. Danny Welbeck has reinvigorated his career. You know, and so this is recruitment, this is coaching, this is just a belief in the process, the way this club is run. And every now and again they get tonked by somebody. You know, they try and play out from the back, they get caught out, and they get a heavy defeat, but they believe in what they're doing. And if we turn that back to City, we have an international break now coming up, which is probably going to be good for them in the sense that they need to have they need to check in.
Guardiola said it'd be good to clear their heads.
Yeah, clear their heads, get some fitness back from some of the players if they don't go away on international duty and come back injured. But then they have a game against Feyenoord in the Champions League, but that's squashed in between Tottenham and Liverpool. And they're already, as that graphic showed, 4 defeats on a row. Now, I talked about defensively, you know, the problems they've got there. But it's not just that. There is a heavy reliance at the moment on Erling Haaland in terms of scoring Premier League goals. They are not getting enough from the rest. Mateo Kovacic, who's the sitting midfielder now because Rodri is out for the season, is the top scorer with 3. And then you go down the list. It's only Doku and De Bruyne I got 1. The rest of them have got a big fat 0.
How do you explain that? Because they're all good players, right?
Well, Gundogan's never been a big goal scorer. He had 1 big season. But when you think about it, De Bruyne's normally chipping in, Bernardo Silva's normally chipping in. Phil Foden's got nothing. Jack Grealish has had his injury problems. And Savinho, you know, maybe look at players that they've lost who were big game changers for them. And I'm thinking of one player in particular, although there's been more. You know, Raheem Sterling goes, blah, blah, blah. Riyad Mahrez. Riyad Mahrez became a player that was so important to this team. Whether he was on the bench or starting, he was a game changer with assists, but more importantly with big goals. At this moment in time, that's dried up. That graphic doesn't lie. Only 2 of them with 1 goal. Kovacic is having to play a defensive role now, more than he was when Rodri was around. So he's not going to be influence the game going forward. So the others are going to have to step up. We talked about it the same with Arsenal, who play tomorrow with Kai Havertz. Others are going to have to step up. And that's the difference with Liverpool, who we're going to get to. They seem to be sharing this load around a little bit more. There's not a big concern if somebody's not scoring goals. Now, maybe Erling Haaland will go out and get 45 goals again this year, and it's nothing to worry about. But while City are not defending well, and Haaland's only getting the odd goal like he did today, and the rest are not chipping in, that's a problem.